Okay, I'm Steve, and this is our first episode of Live from the Drum Shop with Steve. And what we're going to try to accomplish with these segments is to give you an idea about different things that we think are either important or interesting for you to know about as it relates to drums, drumming, drummers, people of interest, things of interest, products of interest, things along those lines. So today, for the first episode, I'm going to talk about one of the things that's near and dear to my heart, and that is Gretsch, and specifically Gretsch USA and Gretsch USA Today, meaning what the good folks at Gretsch are doing today and why do I like it so much. It's an interesting thing. Gretsch to me is, and I've said this to everybody that I've talked with, I think Gretsch makes the finest ply shell drum in the world today, bar none. That's not a comment as to quality of other people's drums, other companies' drums. There's a lot of great product out there made by a number of different manufacturers. Very, very good stuff. But to me, Gretsch is special. It's different. With Gretsch, what they've done is they've managed to take the legacy and the history of the great Gretsch sound going back to its heyday in the 50s through the 60s, and they've managed to capitalize on that and stay true to that sound, and yet take and combine that with modern day conveniences that are hardware related or new finishes or new combinations of sizes and anything else that makes sense, and still keep true to the legacy of the original great Gretsch sound. They've done a tremendous job with that. And I'll sit and talk with people many, many different times about why do I think it's so good, what do I like about it, what are the things that make it different. There's several different things involved here. One is the shells. The shells are today the same exact formula as they were during the heyday of Gretsch in the 60s. There's no difference to the formula. It's the same thing. Formula, the bearing edge, the craftsmanship is wonderful on the drums today, absolutely wonderful. The sound quality is tremendous, and the options are significant. And the value is there. It's a tremendous value. When people will sit down and talk to me about the great Gretsch sound and the players that are looking for the 60s era sound, and specifically jazz players, let's talk about. They're looking for the 60s era 8x12, 14x14, 14x18 bass drum, matching snare drum. A 60s era kit in superb condition that fits those requirements is going to be anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000. Compared to the USA custom kits today, where you can buy a set like that in the range of $3,500 to just under $4,000, depending on how you have it built out. And what I've done with people to prove a point with this is I've had them sit down and I'll say, I'll tell you one thing right now. I'll take a round badge kit from the 60s and the same exact kit that's built today, a USA custom, let me tune them up, with my heads, tune them up, do a blindfold test and sit down, and 99 out of 100 people won't be able to tell the difference between the 60s kit and the new kit. The difference that exists is a subtle one. And the subtle difference is the fact that the shells on the old kit have had 40 plus years to age. And that's significant because as wood ages, it takes on different characteristics. So you may find a little bit more warmth and character to the tone of the vintage shells over the current new ones. But it will be very, very subtle. It's not very significant at all. And the good news is, as your new drums age, they will also begin to develop that same kind of character. So if you sit there and you look at it, you can pick up the same sound that you're seeking on that 12, 14, 18 matching snare round badge kit and not pay that kind of money for it. You can pay under $4,000 for it. The other thing that makes it interesting is on the Gretsch USA Custom Series, you can buy those drums today with the standard build-out, which we call heavy-duty floor tom legs, heavy-duty bass drum spurs, a heavy-duty tom mount if you want a tom mount, or you can order those sets with what we call the vintage build-out, which will be the true build-out that was used in the 60s on these drums. So you can order it with the internal tone controls. On the snare drum, you can get the snap-in key holder, the new micro-sensitive strainer, which is the same as the old one, or the lightning throw-off. On the floor tom, you can get the diamond leg brackets that were used in the 60s. On the bass drum, you can get vintage T-rods, vintage disappearing spurs, Pratt muffler on the bass drum. And then you can also get it with the rail consolette tom holder. And on the vintage tribute kits, those tom holders are the vintage rail consolette that we reproduce that is sold by Gretsch as a vintage rail consolette tom holder replacement part. Look at page 6 of the 2011 Gretsch catalog, and you'll see a vintage tribute kit built out right there that will show you all the features and exactly how it can look. So when you do that, you not only can get the look and feel of the original drums, but you can also get the sound. And it's a significantly lower cost. What I like so much about USA Custom is the fact that the people who build those drums are truly dedicated to what goes on there. Gretsch, thanks to a number of people, Fred Gretsch for keeping the business in the family, and also for having the wisdom to allow the folks at Command, KMC, to do distribution and licensing it out to them. And now KMC, the group at Command, controls the production and distribution for the Gretsch drum product worldwide. And the Gretsch USA Custom Shop in Ridgeland, South Carolina, run by Paul Cooper and his team, they do a tremendous job on the USA Custom product. The build time on sets like this runs around 6 to 8 weeks generally, which is tremendous. The workmanship is top rate. Paul and his team never miss a beat. I've known Paul probably for, well, since 2 weeks after he started working for Gretsch, which was probably 12, maybe 13 years ago now. Paul will have to correct me. But I know Paul very well, and I know the kind of effort that he puts into making the product the best it possibly can be every day. So when people ask me, well, you know, but you won't have the same product because those are not the Jasper shells. The Jasper shell scenario is a myth in some respects. The fact that the drums, when the shells were made by Jasper through the 60s, and Jasper went out of business, I think, in 2003, stopped making shells. Jasper was a furniture maker, not really a drum shell maker by trade. They are good shells, no question about it, but they are not the only good shells. The reality of it is the composition of the wood, the number of plies and the woods used in the plies is more of a determining factor than who actually made the shell. The quality control on the shells that are being made today for Gretsch USA Custom is tremendous. The shells are wonderful, they resonate beautifully, the sound is terrific, and as I said, you'd be hard-pressed to sit down and tell the difference between a new set and a round badge era kit. So, from myself personally, I think the folks at Gretsch do a tremendous job. I am a huge fan of the USA Custom series, and I think that's something that you definitely should check out if you're thinking about a new drum set. The application for these drums is so wide, They're tremendous drums for jazz. Those bebop kits tune up so beautifully. They're also great drums for larger ensembles, for funk, for fusion, for rock, R&B, big band jazz. I've got kits that are my own personal kits in small bebop sizes, but I've also got a much larger kit that Paul built for me and one that he's building for me now, and the sound of those large drums is just incredible. I'll bring up one more point. For the folks who go back to the era of the round badge in the 60s, the common thread was that the Gretsch snare drums were always their weakness in that period of time, and that's an absolutely true statement. More often than not, probably for every 10 Gretsch snare drums from the 60s that I play, maybe 1 or 2 will actually be ones that sound good and have sensitivity and are workable, and some were very tough and boxy. But people love the toms and bass drums so much they'd be willing to put up with the snare drum or just use a different snare. What I'm here to tell you now is that that issue is long gone, because the snare drums that are coming out of the USA Custom Shop today are absolutely phenomenal. They're incredible. The sensitivity is terrific, the sound is wonderful, the tuning range is great, they articulate perfectly, and they project beautifully. They are tremendous instruments, every bit as good as the toms and the bass drums. So in my personal opinion, if you were to spend the money now, buy a USA Custom 4-piece kit, you're going to be better off than buying a round badge era kit, because the snare drum on the new kit is going to be far, far better than the snare drum on the round badge kit in most cases. So, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and there'll be more to come. This is not a fancy production, so now I'm going to get up and go over and walk over and turn off the camera. Thanks.